Okay, so I'll welcome everyone to our budget meeting, January 27th, 2021, or 2021. We're doing this by Zoom, so we do have some people watching or taking part that way. There is no delegations in this meeting, so the purpose is to try and advance our budget to the next stage, and that would be we're starting to get near a final draft, I think. So, but we have a little bit of work ahead of us. We've been working on it for about 3 months now, I guess, off and on. We had a summary meeting on the 14th of January, which we had a list of 23 items, and hopefully everybody's had a chance to talk to staff and try and clear some of those things up. There's still a few little odds and ends. Wendell was saying she has a meeting this afternoon with the county treasurers, and with regards to the provincial small business tax class, there's some provincial help maybe for that. So there'll be some things come out of that that'll probably have to be a part of the budget for the future. So I'll remind council of declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. And with that, we'll move right into the business of the day. And like I said, the first item we had on there was the notes from our January 14th meeting. And it was a list of everything we talked about. And I know I took advantage of everything to talk to staff about individual items. And coming out of that, there was this budget highlights, I think, some action items that have to be taken care of today. So if there's no questions, or is there any questions with regards to the summary notes from January 14th? Does anybody have any questions or concerns with regards to that? Seeing none. Oh, Dave, go ahead.
In regards to the notes, Mr. Mayor, we are going to go through those, right?
If you like, yeah, that's what I'm asking. If you want to go through, if there's some things you want to pull out of there, go ahead, because there is a number of things there that I think they've been implemented into the budget. But what's your thoughts there, Wendland? Do you want to go through them one by one, or?
It's up to council, and we can do whatever way you would prefer.
Okay. So yeah, Dave, if you want to do that, Dave, pull some things out of there, go ahead.
I don't really want to pull anything out of at this point in time, but I do want to speak on and maybe I'm looking at two different pages, but we had discussions from January the 14th, and there's some wording in there that I really have concerns with. I'll put it that way. For instance, discussions on which capital items to be found for municipal buildings and whether the lump sum amount will be decided on, and the manager can decide on which ones are a priority. But his priority and council's priority might be different. So
I think
I really don't like.
I can speak on that. So the management team met last Thursday, and we decided not to go that route. So in your package, there is proposed items from that facilities report coming forward. So it won't be a lump sum, but in the Parks and Rec part for the master plan, that's the way it's being proposed as a lump sum. So Ryan might want to discuss that further.
That's fine, Wendland. I just wanted it cleared up. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Ryan, maybe you could speak to that. I did talk to him about, so it was a matter of that facilities list that we had. We were looking for prioritized things, and he pretty well said it at that meeting about the roofs are a big priority. And so you can carry on, Ryan, explain what you decided there.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor Martin, Council. Yeah, so since the last meeting, just a kind of a recap, I was mentioning that I thought it was a priority to focus on the roofs at the facilities. However, I understand that there's a lot of items listed through that facility condition assessment. So I guess what I took from the last meeting was that council was looking for staff to kind of prioritize what we thought was most important, and we figured that the roof at the medical center was the most important item this year. So that was something that we really wanted to focus on and complete that. Aside from that, in the Parks and Recreation master plan, there's a lot of recommendations that were forth in that plan. So we would like to begin in the design stages and figure out where we can accommodate these recreational amenities in the future. So that's kind of where that came from.
Thank you for the update, Ryan. I appreciate it.
So maybe we can, okay, go ahead, Larry. And then what we'll do is we'll just continue through, we'll go one by one through that list and just make sure everybody understands or where it went to. So go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, and appreciate that, Mr. Mayor, as to refer to Deputy Mayor Giroux's questions as well. It's when I look at this sheet, and first of all, I want to apologize. I haven't been quite as active in the last week due to some family things there. But when I look at this sheet that we're referring to, most of them, or a lot of them, are discussions and suggestions, but they're not confirmed. So I think it's appropriate that we go through this, because if you look at the list, it starts out as discussions.
Yeah.
Not that the things have been confirmed as to be done. So I'll say no more so we can get on with it. Thank you.
Okay, so there's no names beside each of the number as far as whether it's Wendell, like which manager to go to, but so I'll probably open it up and we'll start from the top and work our way down here. For number one, there's discussion to create a new facilities reserve and transfer amounts contained in administration reserve, which is already done. I've seen a thing there. You've already done that, have you not, Wendell?
I've set the numbers in, but council would have to have a resolution to actually formulate that. What I did was I put the existing medical center reserve and reallocated the facilities amount from the administration reserve into that reserve. And I'm proposing that it would be now called facilities reserve.
And that would clear a lot of things up. So what's council's thoughts on that? Right now, I'm only seeing Dave and Larry. If anybody has any questions, just speak up.
I think it's a good idea, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so what do you require there then, Wendell? Do you want a motion today to make that happen?
That would help. So there's that reserve. So I would need a resolution to move that 100 and what was it? Oh, the 172,768.12 from the administration reserve for facilities to be reallocated to the new facilities reserve and somehow word it that it was previously called the medical center reserve.
Okay. Bob, do you have any
Bob wants to word that.
Yeah, you have any suggestions, Bob?
Oh, sorry, there we go, muted. Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. Just to clarify, this is the new reserve, and the attempt here is to consolidate facility activity and facility improvement activity, and it was simply made to make it easier in future budgets for council and staff to identify those projects. So as far as a resolution goes, we'll certainly wordsmith it correctly, and we'll grab the amounts. But a simple resolution to create the new facilities reserve and transfer the amounts contained in the admin reserve will be fine.
Okay. Larry, go ahead.
So this is just really for better management of reserves, make it simpler, but that doesn't reflect any improvement to a budget, right?
No, it's just
No.
shifting it into a new named reserve.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's more for future budgets. It'll create something. So if somebody wants to move that we create a new facilities budget.
I'll move that, Jim.
Okay, moved by Hart, seconded by Larry or Dave, sorry. All in favor? I can't see everyone, so
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
okay. Okay, carried. All
So
right,
just while we're on reserves, there's also the other small proposed reallocation of economic development that was in the administrative reserve prior. And to move that 1,227.84 into the planning reserve and rename that planning reserve the Planning Economic Development Reserve.
okay. All right, because that department's both, that
Yeah,
that
that
makes
shift
sense.
in the duties.
Okay. So what's council's thoughts on that? Go ahead, Larry.
Motion to approve the recommendation from the treasurer, Mr. Mayor.
Second that, Jim.
Seconded by Hart. All in favor of that?
Yep.
And that's carried.
Thank you.
And so the next we talked about there with regards to the, it was more with the facilities assessment. Ryan has made a recommendation that for this year, there's so many things in there. The most crucial thing is a roof on the medical center. I think that's, if that's okay with council, I think that's what we should do. And then it'll give us more time to plan for next year as far as there's so many things on that because it's so long overdue. It'll give us time to get a plan in place for the next budget to try and take care of some more of those things that are outstanding to be done on the facilities. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I think we should get out and get some quotes on the roof.
Yeah.
As soon as possible. This is the time of the year to get them because people want to start up in the spring.
Yeah, and that's, so he has been working on that. And go ahead, Wendland.
I just asked maybe as we're talking about it, Bianca to put up the picture of the concept of the roof that Ryan had prepared. So it gives council a concept of it. And also the proposed in the budget for the roof, 40,000 would be coming from that new reserve called the Facilities Reserve, and 100,000 would be coming from the OMPF for a total of 140,000 proposed.
So we'd have to get an estimate on that. It's the first one, the first part of the budget, we had 80,000 in there to repair the flat roof. And in the past, council's been switching the flat roofs out for truss roofs for future costs to get away from that. They're so expensive. So this was an option. I just said to Ryan that we were going to do it. Let's try and make it look good, but it depends on the cost. Like Barry said, we'll have to get a price on this, but go ahead, Larry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the 80,000 that was previously budgeted, how does that work into the proposal for the roof at 100,000 from OMPF?
So the flat roof has mechanicals on it, and Ryan can talk more about that. So those mechanicals would have to come off and be replaced. So part of that 140,000 with the roof would be moving the HVAC system, because it goes down through the roof, to be on the ground instead. But Ryan can discuss that a little bit more detail because he's been dealing with that.
Well, maybe I wasn't clear with my question. The $80,000 that was previously budgeted is
Yep.
sitting somewhere. Is that to be used towards the cost of 140?
So it was never used. And it was never, so it just stayed. So now we're just proposing, because it's more expensive, to use some of the OMPF funding.
So,
Is that,
yeah, I think I know where Larry's coming from. In the first draft of the budget there, it showed 80,000, or you were showing it somewhere in there for to repair the flat roof. So
yes, but there was no allocation discussed. That was part of why the rate was so high in the previous, because there was no decision on where the money would come from to fund that project.
okay,
So
so
now
this
we're
is
coming
showing-
back with where we're proposing to fund it from.
Thank you.
So I think, like Barry said, the next step would be to get a quote on this and a comparator, I think, between the flat roof and the peaked roof. Even if it's a little more, that'll be up to council to decide if it's a go or no go. But this is what a concept drawing looks like if we were to change it over. So if we could get, before we get to the final stages of this, it would be nice to have a real number to put in there as far as I guess a ballpark quote, because unless you're going to get into getting drawings done and all that stuff, they're going to give a quote, but it might not be 100% until they know exactly what, and I think Ryan said something, the drawings were, I forget now, Ryan, there was a cost to get drawings done to get a firm quote, wasn't there?
So I did reach out to local engineer. We will need design drawings for this project. The cost is $4,500 for the drawings. That was a budget price that was we do have a plan over there. We did some measurements and sent those off to a trust company, and usually it takes about a week to get that information back, but they'll send us a quote based on the dimensions and what we're looking for, and we'll have a better idea. That 140 was just basically a budget price. We figured it was probably about 100 to do the pitched roof with by the time you did the design, and another 30 to 40 to replace the HVAC systems there. So we do have that information submitted to that trust company, like I said, so we're just waiting to hear back, and hopefully we can give council a more accurate number in the near future.
Okay, Larry, you had a question?
Yeah, just regarding the drawings, engineered drawings, was there more than one company involved with supplying a cost to do the drawings, or just one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we just reached out to our local guy there. So no, we didn't do that. It was, the price was supplied at $4,500. It was just an estimate to do the drawings. So we didn't reach out to additional people. We could do that if council decides to move forward with the project, if you wish.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's what it looks like, and I guess the next step would be, Ryan, if you could try and come up with a more, I guess, a closer quote, or is it, once you get that other number back, you should be able to enter some numbers in here for us to work with for the next step?
Yeah, I think so. At this point, I was just kind of hoping that council would agree to it, at least in principle, that the roof needs to be replaced now. It's exceeded its lifespan. So
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that could be the motion for today, is that we agree that as part of the facilities program there, that the roof at the medical center is the next step, and which model we go with, or which option, that'll come back at the next meeting. But right now, to give staff direction to look into getting that roof fixed at the medical center this summer. Does somebody want to make a motion for that?
I will, Jim. Thank you.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconded by Councillor Pomeroy with a question.
No, it has to be done, and we'll get the quote both ways, but we all know that flat roofs are not very desirable. We've had quite a few expenditures on the same roof for many years, so.
Yeah. Okay, so all in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So, okay, next we have the treasurer to check into the administration reserve for potential fund for the entrance sign for economic development, but I think that's what you've done with that other part of it there, Wellen, is that?
Yeah, so that was that $1,200 that you just moved from the administration reserve. So
Okay.
that was not taken from the reserve yet because it wasn't decided on if the economic development was going to be part of that planning reserve. So right now that's coming from taxation. So depending on how council wants that, we could potentially use some of that reserve to fund those signs and the entrance signs, or a portion of that, depending on some of your other decisions today.
Yeah.
So to follow up with that, I thought there would have been more in a reserve there for this, and for looking at the signs, as much as, you know, they're getting due to replace, I just wonder if this year would be the year to maybe look at them a little harder here and see what we can find for money to replace them for the future. It's just my thoughts, but Barry and then Dave.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Jim. I would like to know what signs do we want replaced? You know, what location? The ones down at 30 and 7, they were just reworked, what, 3-4 years ago? So whereabouts are these signs? Are the entrance signs or?
Yeah,
I know Laura's not on the Zoom, but I know she's been in contact with Peter. So maybe Peter can give us the locations because he worked with Laura on the project.
Peter, are you there?
Yes, good morning. Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. As far as I understand, between Laura and myself, we took all the signs coming in and out of the township. So from County Roads 44, 46, there was quite a few. I think we come up with 11 signs in total, I believe, off the top of my head. But and Laura was dealing with the price through BMR, and I think she was sourcing out another price as well. But that was the signs that the welcome to the municipality of Havelock coming in and out of the township.
So maybe we could pass this over like to the Economic Development Committee, and maybe it could be for a future, maybe next year's budget, there may be some opportunities there, but right now they're not looking that bad. They are getting dated. But that being said, I don't think it's a real, I don't think it really has to be done this year, but it might be something to continue looking at with the Economic Development Committee and see if we can come up with some new signs. It might be nice to get the public involved in that part of it too, like we did the first time. It was all done through the committee, and the design and everything had a lot of input. So I don't know what council's thoughts, but it might be just good to just leave it as it is. Dave, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Now, that was one of my items that I brought forward. I looked at the signs. Some of them are getting pretty rickety, but I do agree with the rest of council. This is something that doesn't necessarily have to be done this year. I think as you're coming into the municipality from all directions, I think the biggest thing about the signs is the posts. They're almost rotten looking. If they had a coat of paint, would probably change the appearance of the sign, but that'd be up to the works department this summer if they had a chance to get a coat of paint on them. But for now, yeah, I think we can leave this with our economic development. I'd agree to that, no problem.
Okay, if everybody's good with that, we can move on to the next one, and we'll just, do you want a motion, Bob, to refer that to the Economic Development Committee for future?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, I would suggest that we can defer this to a future staff report, and we could bring all the detail of which signs are to be replaced and the complete costs. So if you wish to refer that to the Economic Development Committee with a future staff report, that would be appropriate.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we refer this to economic development. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yep. Yep.
Sorry, my phone's my phone's going here, so I just everybody's over snow plowing. So anyways, it's so I have a seconder there. All in favor of that motion?
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, Larry.
This is for you, Mr. Mayor, to Wendland. Was there funding in the budget for the signage? I'm trying to find that here.
No.
Yeah, it was in under the planning and economic development. $10,000, so that will come out of the budget now.
So that's gonna.
That was coming from taxation, so that will reduce the percentage.
Perfect.
Good. Okay, is there any other questions with regards to that? We'll move on to the next item, which was the replacement sidewalk plow. And when I had a question with that, looking at the replacement schedule that I have, you could send it out. I think it was in the 19 budget, last year's budget, but I was just going back and looking at it, and it has 10-year replacement on it, which would be this year, but yet it says replacement 2026. So I don't know, the numbers don't go together.
Yeah, so Peter, so over the past couple of years, we were trying to rejig some of the equipment and replacement schedules because we didn't want trucks coming out all together in the same year. So that never really got implemented. So Peter and I actually looked at the asset management policy, and it was 12 years replacement. So it's not due for replacement yet. So Peter
the
can
sidewalk?
talk on that. Yeah, the
For the
sidewalk.
sidewalk plow?
Yeah. So
Okay,
Peter can
so
talk about that because he had some thoughts on the replacement of the little hopper on the back of it as well.
Yeah. Okay, so Peter, what do you want to do there with that replacement? Just you said the hopper was, I forget what it was, $6,000 or $9,000.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Yeah, it was just under $9,000. It's a double augered hopper. But seeing that it is now 12 years as a replacement, so I feel, I was expecting 15 years until we got the actual correct data. So my feeling is right now that we can use the existing, and so we've taken the hopper out of the budget, and we can get by for a couple more winters with this, and with a few small minor repairs. Yes, yeah, no problem.
Okay. Larry, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and to Peter, I think there's been some discussion over the past while when we got to the point of replacing the sidewalk plow, possibly some different options of the type of equipment that we would replace it with. Something that could be maybe more usable off-season. We look at other municipalities that use different types of equipment for snow sidewalk snow plowing. So look forward to further discussion on that topic.
Okay, so so for this year, so you're saying, Wendell, and it comes due in 2022 then?
It'd be 2023 because it's a 2011.
That's
Next,
good.
council.
Sorry, my phone's going crazy here, so I just had to get rid of it. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I had a talk with Peter here this week, and if we do put a new hopper on it, it's going to add to the value of it when we get rid of it in 2 years, and that's for, you know, $8,000 and no jigging around with it. You can put patches on it for 2 years, but you know what's going to happen. We're going to end up with something with a big hole in it. And I think it'd be just as expedient to put a new hopper on it. And in the end, it's going to be worth more to whoever buys it.
Okay,
Through you, Mayor Martin, can I add to that? If we
Sure.
do decide on putting the new hopper on the back of it, we could probably extend the 12 years a little bit. We are just using that machine now for its sole purpose. We're not, brushing or sweeping. We've got rid of the flail mower, so it's not being as used as much as it was in the past. So we could probably extend it another year or two if we do go with the hopper. That was my original thought. It was 15 years replacement, but if we're just strictly using it for sweeping the sidewalks in the village and snow plowing, I believe it would carry on for another year or two past the 12 years. So that's something that maybe between Wendell and myself that we can discuss and expand maybe, or just as an option, but
sure. Okay, Councillor Ellis, you had a question, and then Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick one to Pete there regarding the type of repair that you do to continue using it. Just your thoughts on the repair, and does it last?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, it's so we've replaced bearings and chains and sprockets and pretty well all on the back. The drive over the years, it with the salt, it does get the worst part of the machine. Takes the abuse with the salt, but it's the main augers inside that are showing some signs of failure. And as far as it might need some reinforcement, but that was instead of going through all the bearings and the sprockets and the chains and the augers, and we thought a whole replacement would be the better option to take. But
and your cost to replace with a new one was $8,000, was it?
It was $8,750, I believe.
You're almost pushing $10,000 with taxes.
Okay, Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm leaning towards a new hopper on that. Peter, I know you can repair it. Problem is, for me, if we have a new hopper on it, we know what's there. If we don't, and it breaks down during a storm, we don't have it. It'd be nice to start out with a new hopper. And if it's going to extend the life of it and the value of it, when it's time to turn it around, then I'd sooner go for a new hopper myself. Just my
Okay.
comment. Thanks.
So is that a motion there, Larry or Barry or Dave? You both are in favor of it. If you want to make a motion to that effect, we'll get that into the budget. So somebody want to move it? Moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we get a new hopper.
With the intent that it is going to last 2 to 4 years more, so.
Okay.
Second
Dave,
motion.
seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. And all in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Very good. So next we had some discussion with regards to the cap bylaw, and there is some things with regards to the budget highlights, and I think it is something that needs to be done. But I'll leave that with council here. What's your thoughts on working with the Humane Society and getting an agreement going with them to help us with this problem?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin, if I could just explain quickly on this item. We, as council knows, we did have a delegation from the Humane Society a few meetings back. We requested from the Humane Society a quotation based on average uses that they have been involved with in other municipalities with respect to cat control. So they've put a number together for us. They've kind of put a package together for us. It comes in roughly at $7,100 a year.
Okay. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, and I think we had 2 complaints this past year.
One's major. So I don't know. It's up to council here. It's
If it's major, it can be handled in a different way too.
okay. So what's council's thoughts? Go ahead, Larry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a little clarity for me, I guess. We have a bylaw for through the small animal and for dogs.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the same through the Humane Society in Peterborough? Like, I'm trying to figure out the cost for our bylaw enforcement for dogs, right? So do we pay, for an example, do we pay $7,000 for dogs?
Through you, Mayor Martin. Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin, to Councillor Ellis. No, we do not pay that amount for the dogs. So currently we have a split process with the dogs. The Peterborough Humane Society is involved, but only partially. They are responsible for our impound services. They do not do the animal control part of it. So they are not the animal control officer who comes. So it's a bit of a split situation. It's not exactly the same.
So is it possible to have the same system set up for a cat bylaw?
It is possible if council wishes. We are currently using, as everyone knows, Deb Haig is our small animal control officer, and she's responsible for dog control. We could approach, we have not requested from her whether she would be interested in handling cat control. But if that's council's wish, we could certainly pursue that.
I'm just looking at the cost factor of it. And as Councillor Pomeroy has indicated, we had two complaints. So I'm just looking at a better or more efficient way to address cat bylaw.
Yeah. Okay, so Dave, go ahead. You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know. I'm sitting on the fence here. I know we have a problem in certain areas. I don't know. I don't know enough about the health department. I mean, is the health department got anything to do with these complaints that we're talking about? I mean, I feel it hard for me to allocate taxpayers' money for runaway cats.
Yeah.
It's a hard decision here.
Yeah, I think it's something. I think it's the one major problem we have, and I know I wouldn't want it next door to me. So I think Barry's right there. There's like for 2 complaints, we got to come up with something though. So let's deal with it a different way. I can see, $7,000 for a couple of complaints might not be worth it, but we need to deal with the bylaw and we need to strengthen up things because there's no way we should have a house within town with 40 cats in it. Nobody would want to live next door to it. So I think maybe it's one single problem. So maybe we need to deal with it a different way because the cats should be the same as the dogs. You should have a tag for them, the same as everything else. And we limit 3 dogs to a house. So yeah, I think you're right. To do it this way might not be the right choice. So let's look into it further. We don't have to make a decision on this today, but Bob, if there's a way of finding out from Deb Haig about dealing with this problem, maybe it's just a matter of creating a stronger bylaw and enforcing it.
So through you, Mayor Martin, just to respond to that, there are 2 elements to the issue. So the first element is we could create a bylaw which mirrors our dog control bylaw and puts limits on the number of cats in a home and speaks to tagging, etc. We could do that. And part B to that solution would be the enforcement side of it. So on the enforcement side, the number that was provided is just an average based on what the Humane Society has encountered in other municipalities. If it truly is a matter of 2 or 3 cats, that number obviously would be considerably lower.
Okay, well, I think like you heard here though, Bob, we need to, the bylaw problem is separate from, whether we need this, the Humane Society to do it or not. So maybe, like Barry said, we need to just deal with the problem, maybe not get ahead of ourselves here. But go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we defer this and look at it at a later date, because there's a simpler way than spending $7,000, and it's going to end up more, because if I recall, they're going out to other municipalities, but they haven't really tried it yet in some of the other municipalities. So I don't want to get into that. And I think the simplest thing to do would be just put a limit on how many cats are in a household. And
That's right.
if somebody's got 40 cats in a house, you call the officials in and deal with it, because they know how to handle it. They can go to the Humane Society or the health unit or whatever, because if there's 40 cats in a house or 25, you got a health problem, and it's a hoarding problem usually.
So, okay, so let's just leave that one alone. What do you require for that, Bob, as far as a resolution, just to defer that one, or?
So through you, Mayor Martin, we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Pomeroy to defer.
Okay, so do I have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Giroux? You're seconding that? All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Next was the cleaner contract position that we've been talking about. And it's something that I know we need to get moving on. Things aren't getting looked after. So what's council's thoughts on this? Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had several discussions on this. I think it's a proposal that should go forward, and I'll make a motion that I would like to make a motion that we proceed with the request from staff that we go out.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ellis,
The question, Mr. Mayor?
go
Question.
ahead. Yeah,
I was looking at the guidelines that were on paper here for the different facilities and the number of days. So I'm going to question the fact that it says the number 3, which was the medical center for doctors, indicates that you would be cleaning there Monday to Friday. Well, we know that the medical center for doctors is only open 2 days a week. So, and there's maybe a couple other ones that we could look at before we advertise, because when we advertise, the number of days per facility is going to be reflected in the cost coming back to us. So I think we could have another look at the number of days we're indicating that we need cleaning facilities being done for the 5 days a week, when, for an example, the medical center for doctors are only there 2 days a week.
yeah. So staff can clean up that part of it for the advertisement. It needs some tuning there, but for the most part, it's just in general to get on with this cleaning position. It needs to happen.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Mayor, but my thoughts are to have a discussion or have staff look at the number of days we're saying that it's required.
Yeah. Okay, Hart, go ahead.
I just had questions as to why the fire hall and the 6-line garage have been added to it. Obviously, we've been doing it in the past, so, and I don't know why the 6-line garage would need to be cleaned every day.
Good
And
example.
that's it. That's the things that they can clean up some of the, like I know the office and the main office is cleaned every day. But those things there are things that they can work out when they get the advertisement ready. I think just today, the main thing is to whether we're going to go out and do this. And as far as those things, staff can clean up the, how often they are going to be done. I think this was just a paper that was put out to show what it could look like.
Well, are they gonna be cleaning the fire hall or aren't they? Because
Well, it should be, every building should be cleaned. We haven't been doing it. I don't know whether you've been in there, but
why aren't our employees doing it then?
you want our fire chief cleaning the fire hall?
Well, I mean, he could do some tidying up. I mean, I don't know. I'm not asking for a professional cleaner here, but I mean, I gotta believe there's a lot of downtime in a fire hall too, Jim. And when I go to other fire halls, yeah, I see guys cleaning and doing stuff, not sitting
Oh.
around listening to a radio. So I'm not saying our fire chief's doing that, but I'm just saying that if the time is there, that I mean, instead of us going out and using taxpayer money, to fund a cleaner to go around and do it, if we have employees there that are able to do this work, I don't know why we wouldn't be asking them. Do we need someone to clean the rink? What about the rink? Does Ryan need someone to clean the rink?
I don't know. You want to speak to that, Ryan? Dave, did you have your hand up there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to fire hall, that's the one I'd like to speak to. I'm in and out of that fire hall a lot. And I think the cleaning that they're talking about has nothing to do with inside other than an office in there. I don't think our fire chief should have to clean that office. I think he's got more than he can handle doing what he's doing. There's a lot of people in and out of there. And it's only a small office, but it needs to be cleaned up. And I don't think he's got time to do it. My comments. It doesn't got anything to do where the trucks are. The fire crew have that always in pretty good shape. I've never been in there that's seen anything out of place other than that washroom in there needs to be replaced. Thank you.
Okay. Larry, go ahead.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think what's needed here, staff are looking for our support, our recommendation, and I think we all agree it needs to be advertised. So I'd make that motion that we direct staff to proceed, but to look at the requirements of the jobs and the locations of what's to be done prior to it being advertised and a report back to council with that, to give staff direction to proceed. And I'll
Yeah, and
make
I think so. It's moved by Councillor Ellis, and is there a seconder for that? And seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Any more comments? So yeah, and then staff can clean that up. It's just a thing to get it going here, and all in favor of the motion, and that's carried. So so we can move that.
Mayor Martin, if I could just quickly speak to that.
Sure.
Thank you to council for providing that motion to move forward. Just to clarify, I want to thank our supplier that we currently have. They're doing an okay job for us. However, I think we can achieve some efficiencies and some cost savings if we move forward in this manner. As far as the details of what gets cleaned and what not, I mean, we will certainly review that, and those details will be worked out, but I think we will find this to be a positive move.
Okay. Thank you. Next we had on here was the washroom at the chamber, and I think after our discussion at that meeting that I think it was pulled off the list at this time. That's not the place to put it. So I don't know what council's thoughts are there, but I think there's some more work to be done on where this could be located. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, as council's aware, I'm no longer the rep for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not only eyes on there anymore, but I do know from my last conversations and communication with the Chamber, and Councillor Webb, I'm sure, is apprised of all this. They have some new thoughts and directions for future building and a number of different things, which will eventually come to council. That was my last recommendation to the Chamber, that they put together their thoughts and come to council, so council are apprised of what they're thinking, and also so council could budget if they so desire to do so. But yeah, they have a new idea and lots of suggestions about buildings and so on. So I'll just leave it at that. Again, Councillor Webb will be well apprised of what their thoughts are, so.
Okay, do you have anything to add to that, Hart?
No, not really, Jim. I haven't been in contact with anybody from the chamber. Well, I shouldn't say that. I spoke with Ray about a week ago, but it wasn't concerning this issue. So hopefully in the next week or so, I'll be in more discussion with them.
Okay, so I think we'll just leave that alone, and I think there's a lot more work to be done with regards to where a washroom could be located or how we could even do it. So the next item we had on there was the commercial water sewer hookups at the Peterborough Housing Development. Did anybody get some numbers there?
Yeah, so there will be one commercial hookup, and there'll be 24 residential hookups.
Okay. Okay then. So I guess that's all we needed for that that item. It's just a number. And I can't see everyone, so like I say, if you have anything to add, just speak up. So next, the next item we had here was discussion having Dual Engineering reviewing the long-term care project. So additional costs would have to be built into the budget. Somebody want to speak to that?
Yep, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
did we miss number 10?
Yeah, I did. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, and that was kind of what I spoke to at the beginning, I think, isn't it, Wendland, with regards to
Yes.
the meeting you have this afternoon with
Okay,
So
any funding, so.
just
Okay.
for all of council, there is a proposed new tax class for small business, and that would have to be added at the county level to be included at the lower tier. So the Peterborough County treasurers are meeting on Zoom this afternoon to discuss that possibility if it would be included in 2021 or 2022.
Okay. So we'll see what happens with that, and that will come back to our next meeting. So this item with regard to Dual Engineering, can somebody speak to that? I don't know.
Peter's been dealing with that, so I'll let Peter discuss that because he was trying to get a quote from them.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. I just received an email back from Dan Fencott through Jewel Engineer yesterday that he is taking the time to review the plans, and he will be providing us a cost estimate very shortly.
Okay.
So that's just to cover our liabilities, make sure that all the I's and the T's are crossed in the plans that for like the sanitary sewer, storm, water, make sure all the backflow preventers are in place, and just to, yeah, a third party just to make sure everything is in the plans is okay for the public works.
Okay. Barry, go ahead.
and the reason for this is the engineer that we had on board can't inspect his own work. That's why we have got a quote from Jewel.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Pomeroy. I should have mentioned that as well, Mayor Martin. But yes, that come up in our discussions when I was talking with Councillor Pomeroy earlier in the week.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Hopefully we hear something this week or in the next few days with regards to how the tender went for the long-term care. Go ahead, Wendland.
Yeah, just so council's aware, because we don't have the quotation yet, that portion is not included in this draft budget, that it'll be included in the next draft budget.
And then we can, so do you need a motion in principle then, Peter, that you do this and the price will be in the budget next time?
Yes, if we could, yes, through you, Mayor Martin, that would be good. And then it would be included in the budget. And yes, and then we can, as soon as I have the cost, I can bring that back to our next budget meeting.
Okay. Somebody want to move that then, that we authorize Peter to contact Dual Engineering? Moved by Councillor Pomeroy. Seconder. Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And Dave and Hart, I'm
In favor? Yeah, I'm in favor.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we'll move to number 13, capital items discussed in the recreation master plan. And I think that's where that the $50,000 is it, Wendland, was allocated for?
So there's 75,000, there's a change there. So there's
Oh,
75,000 allocated to that. I'll let Ryan speak to that, of what his ideas are on the planning process for this year.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
so,
Ryan.
yeah, so we did increase that amount a little bit since the last meeting. We did pull another item off that was a playground replacement item. We kind of decided that it would be best to invest more in the planning aspect so that we can do this properly and not purchase and install equipment without having a proper plan in place. So the plan would basically include design drawings for possible locations for enhancements to the recreation park amenities, such as a splash pad, skateboard park. Some of the major items that were recommended in the master plan was the possibility of relocating the ball field. So we'd like to explore some of those options and come up with an effective way to strategize a plan so we can start getting shovels in the ground.
Okay, so that was that coming from the Parkland Reserve then, some of it?
That is coming from,
A portion of it or some of it? If not,
no,
good, right?
that was coming from the Parks and Rec Reserve.
Okay. Okay, so it's not affecting the budget at this time then, is that?
No,
All right. Could any of it come from the park plan? Or maybe wait till later?
it could. There could be, like, if you're moving, for example, the ball diamond, you can use your Parkland Reserve for those types of things, as long as it is directly related to a park.
Well, there's no direct cost to the budget, so I guess it's good to leave it where it is, because there is another item there with regard to the Patterson Park project. That's I think what I was looking at earlier, the
Yes, that's
25,000.
coming from Parkland Reserve.
Okay. There was Dave and then Barry.
No, that was my question about the Parkland Reserve. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, and first I got a couple questions. One was Patterson Park. When did we name that? Was that the piece of property on the corner?
I think it's just a name to so we know where it is.
Okay, and further to that, we're gonna have to get together and do something because, you know, for to move the ball diamond, then we gotta build a new one and whereabouts and so on and so forth. So I think as a council, we're gonna have to sit down, see what we are going to do. Yeah, we know what we wanna do, but are we gonna be wasting money? Like it would cost a fortune to put hydro around, you know, another ball diamond, and then we just had the new scoreboard put there last year. So I think there has to be some more discussion on that aspect of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's even in the budget this year. There's nothing identified as far as that was in the plan, but we haven't even spoke to it yet. So that won't be a part of that other money. That's something, because I think all it was doing was creating more parking.
Yeah.
So I think that, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I think the ball diamond part of it would be for another day.
Yeah, so that plan wouldn't include that, but we would at least be able to explore the option and figure out what it would cost, so that when we do sit down as a council, we have information that we can actually look at. As of right now, we don't have that information, so we need to do some planning so we can have good discussion on that, and council could make wise decisions on how they want to proceed with this plan over the next 10 years. So this plan would address the any expansion of the community center, which was, you know, something that was highlighted in the plan, and we'd really like to move forward with that and get that completed so that we can kind of get some things done. So there's some grants available there, and we got to have the planning part done if we want to be successful in that area as well in terms of getting grant money. So this has to be done.
Yeah, so, yeah, there was a lot of stuff in that recreation master plan. I think when you refer to splash pad and skate park ideas, they were just what were high on the list. As far as the ball diamond, that was something that came out of it, but whether it happens or not, that'll be for another day. So, okay, so the portion that you have in there right now of $75,000 coming from reserves, it doesn't impact the budget. It is to say, I know council always hates hearing that, but it's still money, but it's something to help us get moving forward with that master plan. We spent a lot of money on it, and we got to start exploring some of the things that are in it. So, so what's council's thoughts? Do you, with that 75,000 to leave in there from the reserves? Dave, go ahead.
If you require a motion to do so, Mr. Mayor, I will make that motion.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Do I have a seconder? Like I say, I can't see everyone, so just speak up if there's a seconder. Barry, go ahead. You're seconding? Okay. And all in favor of the motion?
Yep.
Okay, and that's carried. Okay, the next thing we have in here and was with regards to the fire master plan, and I think talking to Ray this week, he's just gonna pull it out of there. Is that right, Ray? If he's here. I'm not hearing him. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think he made it quite evident at the last meeting that he could pull that out.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then. So Bob, do you want a motion that we pull that out or just leave it as it is?
Through you, Mayor Martin, we'll take the motion just to make it clear.
All right. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we pull that out of there, or we leave it, or we pull it out. Seconder to that,
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ellis, all in favor? And that's carried. So next, with regards to grant applications and budget and announcements, I think, I'm not sure if that's referring to the ICIP grant that we applied for the community center, Gwendolyn?
Yes, so the ICIP grants are not included in the budget, but I have included potentially the Connecting Link grant is in the budget. So it just, I had sent an email prior explaining to council potential future commitment of OMPF funds if those grants are successful. So there's the ICIP grant for the arena, the one for George Street, and the recent one for the Matheson Park, but the Matheson Park would not cost us any contribution.
Okay. So the ICIP one, hopefully, we'll hear something here in the near future from what I hear, but before the budget's done, we'll see where that goes. So yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens. That's just identifying that we have a lot of grants that we applied for. Still waiting for answers back on if they were approved or not. And yeah, so we'll just leave it at that for now. Just to keep them in mind, like Gwendolyn said, when we get to talking about the OMPF money and things like that, we will have to plan ahead if we were ever approved on these things. So, so next was with regards to the significant vehicle equipment repairs, that goes to the Public Works. And I think it was with regards to the big trucks, there was some heavy cost to repairs there that had to happen, and we had it kind of low in the reserve. Our number wasn't high enough to take care of some of the things that we have now. It's kind of outdated. Is that right, Wenlin?
Yes, and they have been added into this draft budget.
Okay. So for now, we can, what's council's thoughts? I think it needs to be left in there because I think it's just one of those things that it slipped off a little bit as far as these big trucks cost a lot of money to repair. And I think we only had like $3,000 or something in there, Wenlin.
Yes. And we've
So-
already repaired the one vehicle.
Okay. So go ahead, Larry.
Just for clarity, so what was added to it?
Let me just pull that. So. The equipment repairs and maintenance. So it's sitting at $20,000 now, the equipment repairs and maintenance.
Thank you, Wenlin.
Okay. So, so I'll take a motion that we'll leave that in there and that we can deal with a motion if that'll be a part of the whole budget. If everybody's okay to leave it in there, we'll just leave it in the draft right now. So, the next item we have is Fish Hatchery Road, and that's an ongoing thing that we've been working on all year with M&R. So, you know, we did receive a lot of emails. I don't think everybody realizes how much work it is to try and make this happen. But we've done a lot of work and we're heading in the right direction, I think. So I think one option might be, Larry, you go ahead, and you've been talking to a lot of people, so go ahead.
Well, just to reflect your comments through you, Mr. Mayor, and to add my thoughts, because we're in budget, and I know we've done a lot of work, and we're continuing to work with M&R, which is the people that we need to be working with, as well as other agencies there. But because we're in budget, I'm going to suggest that we add a small amount of contingency funds. And I would look to Wenlin as to where we would bring the funds from, whether it's OMPF would be a suggestion. But I think because we're in budget, that we need to take that step and put some contingency funds in place. Maybe a sum, not a large sum, but maybe like 50,000. Wenlin, I would look to you.
Okay. Yeah, like we discussed as a management team that basically there's a heck of a lot of planning that needs to be done before any final decisions are made. So there's a lot of components that need to be still researched, and we're still waiting to hear from the ministry. So I would think that would probably be a good thing to have something as a planning figure, so that it would allow staff to move ahead on what that would be. Now, because it would be only a certain amount of people in that area, like it's been talked about before, if we do take over that road, how it would be funded. So I have been doing some research yesterday with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So I'm still working on that to be part of the planning process. So those are the components that really need to be ironed out in this year's budget.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Mayor, again, you know, our staff, we gotta recognize the work that our staff has done as well, because as we all know, Peter has done due diligence there, worked with Mr. Drain, took a lot of the cost out of bringing the road to some standard. So anyway, I just think it's a smart move to get some contingency fund in place there. So as we move forward, that small amount of money to be there.
And that's probably a good idea. I was talking with Dave Smith yesterday with regards to this, the MPP, and he, you know, he is working on it, and he's got something, you know, he's working with M&R. So that would allow us the opportunity to be prepared to work with M&R. Go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, on the contingency fund, I don't really think that it's necessary because we don't have the information. You know, there's a lot of information to be obtained. And, you know, I read some of the emails, and this is quite a project. We don't know whether the fish hatchery road, like the MNR, you know, what's it going to cost us? Are we buying that from the ministry, or are we buying it as a municipality? And it goes on and on and on, all these different things. And then a survey. Who's going to pay for that? How much is it? We don't know. And then I have people, you know, sending me an email saying that it's a public road. Well, it isn't a public road. It's still a private road. It's got a fire road sign out at the end. And, you know, saying that I'm not doing my job, you know, I'm against it, the whole ball of wax. Well, I like to have facts and figures. If you're building a new house, you want to know how much it costs. Or buying a new car, you want to know how much it costs. So that's what I'm looking for is, can we afford this? And I will leave it at that. But I think that, you know, people think we're just going to pull this out of the air. Well, we're not. As far as I'm concerned, I want all the facts and figures before me before I put any money into it. Where this is taxpayers' dollars, I realize that. But they got to, you know, they got to realize that it's still a private road.
So Wendelin, I think with Councillor Ellis's idea there of a contingency from OMPF, it's, I think, personally, I think it's good planning as far as to allow us to work with M&R. And Councillor Pomeroy is right. There's a lot of questions still here that we're still working on, you know, the survey and those things. And that's what Dave Smith is working on. So it just allows us to have a little bit of money there if we have to, rather than do it in the middle of a budget trying to find money. I guess you can always go back and open it up again. But, you know, if such a thing, he's successful and comes up with everything that he's planning on here, we wouldn't have to use it and it could be reallocated from there. But right now it would be just a spot to hold it to allow us the flexibility to work on this.
Yeah, so if council wants it to come from the OMPF funding, there is funding there that could be allocated. And if it is not spent, then it just is not spent. It would go back into, just stay in the reserve.
Okay. So what's council's thoughts? Go ahead, Larry.
Well, I don't know. Again, I'm just reflecting Wendelin's just said thoughts, like you're setting some money there to support the process. And so if it's not used or it's not needed, then it just goes back in. But it says trying to support the process and work with the M&R and MPPT Dave Smith. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
planning.
if somebody wants to make a motion to that, we'll see where it goes. The one thing, like, you know, that I say, like when people talk about whether it's a private or a public road, it was a public road at one time. In an amalgamation, it must have got pulled out or something. But we have 100 of these private roads, but this one is different, and it's been around since I've been on council. And it's one of those things that no private road has a bridge like that one in there. And that was one of the stipulations, is we don't want the bridge. It only would go to the bridge because we all know what bridges cost. And that was another thing that Dave was working on with M&R. So that bridge, I don't know what it would cost to replace it, but that's why we're steering clear of that. But there's a lot of options here. And like Barry said, a lot of things to investigate, but it would allow us an opportunity to work with M&R and Dave Smith. So if somebody wanted to make a motion one way, The other?
I don't think you can see me.
Oh, there you
Mayor
are.
Martin. I did have a comment. I appreciate Councillor Pomeroy's comments on this road. I think he's got some good points. I think there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. And I think we've already dumped the pieces out on the table to try and put them together. And we do need the information. So in order to make this work or put the puzzle back in the box, we need that information. I'd like to move forward with it. So I would support Councillor Ellis's motion.
Okay, was that a motion you made then, Larry?
Yes, it was, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you.
And Dave seconded it? Seconded it?
Yes,
Second. Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor of that motion?
I'm in favor.
Okay, and Art? Okay,
Yep.
okay, that's carried. So we'll leave that in there for now and see what we can come up with here over the next little bit.
Through you, Mayor Martin, if we could just clarify the contingency fund in the amount of?
$50,000 from,
$50,000.
yeah,
Okay. All right, thank you.
To come
Okay.
from OMPF.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
okay. Okay, so the next item we have on here is discussion of the wastewater treatment environmental assessment. Is there something there?
So we did get an email back from Aqua, and the E of A is proceeding. So that has been started. So maybe Peter would like to comment further on it. I think part of the package with the E of A with the cell would be, the quotation is approximately $2 million to put the cell in for cell 3.
Peter? Is Peter still there?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, no, I'm still here. No, I think it's great and I'm glad they've got it underway and yes, it'd be sure this the next cell would be great for the municipality. I know there's some meetings I'm in tomorrow in the Zoom with some more residential houses that would need the extra cell as well. So no, I'm glad it's underway and Wendland, she followed up with Aqua on that for the update. So no, that's fantastic.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, in the last couple of days, particularly yesterday, I've been reading a lot. The province has come out with millions of dollars in grants for many bridges, roads, water, sewer, so on. I'm sure you're aware of that. So I
Yeah,
hope
so that's potentially one of the things that we would look at trying to get the biggest dollar projects into a grant to get those percentage dollars back from grant monies.
Thank you, Wendell.
Okay. All right then. So
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question.
yeah,
The
go ahead.
new grants that Deputy Mayor Giroux is referring to, is there a time limit on those, Wendland?
I believe it's mid-March, but I just have to go back and check, but that information will be coming forward to council shortly as well.
Okay, just, we just don't want to miss on them, that's all. Thank you.
I believe Bob is going to have something on the next agenda to give us the authority to apply for the grant. So that gets that part of the process started.
Okay. All right. So with regards to this, the E of A, it's already started then. So there's no resolutions needed here then, from what I understand then.
No, it's included in the budget as well.
Okay. All right, then there was several things here with regards to water and wastewater, and the other part was the lagoons, and I think that's all going to be included together on future discussion, if I'm not mistaken. But the treatment cell for the wastewater treatment cell and then the discussion around wastewater. So we'll just leave that for future discussion then.
So I can give you an update as well from Aqua's, the email I sent Aqua. So the lagoon study has started as well. They cannot give us a quotation on how much it would cost to fix the lagoons at this point until that process is done. For the ozone project at well 3, that was projected at about 700,000 to do the well 3 ozone.
Okay, that's a hefty price there for that, for the ozone treatment, eh?
Yeah. But
Okay,
then that
Larry,
gives you the extra water capacity.
is that an ongoing operating expense too then, Wendland, or is that just the initial equipment to make it happen?
That's the initial to put it online with the ozone. I would have to ask Aqua if there's future operating costs that would happen yearly.
Okay, Larry, go ahead.
Just a couple of questions through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm curious how Aqua arrived at the 700,000. For one thing, I don't know if you have that information or not. And the other comment would be, as much as we need the well and good water, would it be not more feasible to drill new well?
Okay, so they did reach out to some of the different contractors that would provide that service. So that's where they came up with the 700,000. I don't know if they've researched drilling a new well. I refer that to Peter. I don't know if he's had that discussion with Aqua or not.
Oh, through you, Mayor Martin, no, I haven't had that discussion with Aqua about drilling a new well. So that's something that we can definitely look into if that's what council would like us to, the staff to do, for sure.
Well, there's no doubt, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, there's no doubt that there's a requirement or a need for the water. It just seems terribly costly for $700,000 for it to treat the water that we have versus drilling a new well. So I would leave that with Peter for future report back.
Okay, Dave?
I'd like to thank Councillor Ellis for bringing that up. I brought it up in the past with not very much success because at that time, although I didn't have any strong figures, it was indicated to be quite an expensive endeavor. But I think with the new well now and with what these on-demand pumps are, the technology has grown. We don't need a big reservoir anymore. So I would like, if it doesn't bush a basket full of money, Peter, if you could try and find out as much as that as you can, because I think it'd be an option, a great option to look into. So thank you, Councillor Ellis.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, I will get in touch with Aqua and find out what the recommendations or some more pricing on some wells or yes, I'll get something back in the future here from Aqua and see what they advise and cost estimates as well.
So any of these things, Wendland, are they coming from the water reserve, or how are we paying for that if any of this ever was to happen?
So right now, the E of A and the lagoons would be coming from the water reserve. The other items have not been put into the budget.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we'll just continue on with researching that there. Go ahead, Larry.
Well, I was wondering through you, Mr. Mayor, if there was a motion needed regarding what Deputy Mayor Giroux stated.
Yeah, that's Bob.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, Yes, we'll take the motion from Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we, you want to repeat it, Dave?
Find my unmute button. Yes, I would make a motion that we would have, I won't say a name, have someone investigate the costing of the drilling of a well. Now, everybody knows you drill a well, you might not get water, but Havelock sits on it, so, and it might not be good water, but the drilling of a well and what it would detail, whether we would need a reservoir or whether they have an on-demand pump, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, I don't know how, if that's what you need or not, Bob, or I can shorten that up.
Nope, that's perfect. It's good.
That's fine.
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor of that motion?
Mayor,
Or for
Mr.
question, sorry, I didn't ask for a question. Barry?
Yeah, all this is an ozone treatment. Our water is drinkable. It's the color. And we have all the equipment there. And for to think that you're gonna drill another well and put the equipment in it, you're looking at millions of dollars, not, 700,000 where you can just install it and for a minimal charge for it to run. From what I understood from when we had them do the trial run. And I think we're just wasting our time, but if you want to do that, go ahead, but we do have lots of water, the quantity is there. It's just and the quality is good, except the color. Then that's what ozone would clean up. All the pumps are there, the building is there, the reservoir is already in the ground, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, so I think the report will take care of that, Barry. I think you're right. I think basically this is asking to look at the other option, but they may come back and say the same thing that you're saying is treatment would be cheaper than putting a new well in. So I think this motion will cover both options as far as I can see. I don't know. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I would like to know one way or another for a final decision. I do know that I drilled a well in the ground, in the rock, that pumped 500,000 gallons a day, and there was no reservoir. So if it can be done 25 miles north of Havelock, I don't know why it can't be done in Havelock.
Okay, so this will investigate that and see what comes back as far as costing. I think we need some numbers on this anyway. So either it's looking at a new well, that option hasn't been there. So this will cover both options, a new well or treatment, and see where it goes. So there's a mover and a seconder. All in favor of that motion, I'll call the question. And that's carried. Hart, I can't see you, but best if you speak up.
Jim, can you see?
I can see you, Barry.
I can't. I just have whoever's speaking come up on my screen. I don't know what I didn't hit here, but.
Well, that's one of the problems when you have it on the screen, but it's better for everyone that's involved here that they can see the list that we're going with. So it just makes it a little more challenging, but I'll just call somebody, everybody can speak up. If I don't see, I'll ask the people that I'm not seeing and make sure they're okay. We're almost done this anyways on this sheet. So the last, well, I think that takes care of everything as far as water and wastewater. I was going to move on to number 23 here, and that was with regards to sea cans. And I see the budget adjusted to include sheds instead of sea cans. And I did have a question later with regards to that. But the sea can option, I know we have a bylaw about sea cans, but it's a cheaper alternative, and there's already 2 at the waste site. So I don't know what another couple would hurt. It's a cheaper alternative, plus the opportunity to use them as a billboard to try and make money to pay them back. That was my thoughts when I said that. But looking at the sheds to spend, I'm not sure. It looks like all the waste sites are going to have sheds at $3,000 a piece, and so like I say, it's something probably for future discussion with regards to sea cans. There's lots of them around the community, and they are a great alternative when you look around at some of the commercial developments as far as using them for a billboard. And anyways, I'll leave it at that. We do need a shed for the bottle return thing for the youth that we had going at the waste site. So I don't know what council's thoughts are to deal with this. Dave, go ahead.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we have that bylaw, and I thought about that many times. We do have sea cans at our transfer station, so I guess they belong to the county, right? Is that right? So maybe we don't have as much power as the county. So, but I think I agree, it's something definitely, maybe not today, that's for sure, but council should be looking into this and make some kind of a decision what we're going to do. So, and then with council's permission, while I got myself unmuted, Councilor Ellis threw me off a little bit. I wanted to ask Gwendolyn if I can, with council's permission, to go backwards. Gwendolyn, the $700,000 that was quoted for the well that we do have,
Yep.
The ozone, can we apply for grants for that?
So that's a potential as well. So that would have to be looked at with this new grant announcement coming out, what our options would be for what we would want to apply there.
Thank you, Gwendolyn.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, and I think this would qualify under water and sewage for a grant with the literature that came out yesterday. And it would sure clean up a problem. Like, it really isn't a problem. It's one piece of equipment that cleans the water. Other than that, we don't need any equipment there. And the tank that's underground is a storage tank. And that well does do the whole loop. We have it hooked up. It goes all the way around town. So if a well goes down in the park, we have this other well over there. And I'm sure that we can get we have the potential to get funding for this and get that off our back.
Yeah, so we already had that dealt with, and I think it'll come out at a future meeting as far as so we'll leave it at that. Okay, Larry, go ahead.
Comment. Can I just make a comment on that? So, Councillor Pomeroy, I would look at probably potentially combining the two as a project for water, wastewater for the funding. So I will also look at that to see if those two items can be combined in one grant application.
That would be very good, Wendland, but hopefully we can, but the wastewater, have we got shovel in the ground? Like, are we ready?
Well, we're on the way with the E of A.
Yeah, but
So-
when we got to have this in March.
Yeah.
So my big thing is the ozone is a shovel in the ground project, is what they would call it, eh?
Yes, because we've already had
So
the
we
pilot
qualify
week
for
of that project.
So that'll come back at a future meeting. It sounds like it's
Yeah.
coming at the next meeting, so we'll just leave it at that and bring us more information back so we can make the proper decision here on where we apply for grants. So, and with regards to the sheds and sea cans, I think something is needed, and we could leave that in the budget for now, and that could come back. We can do some discussion, maybe talk to John and with regards to sea cans over at the 6th line. I didn't know the rest of the sites, but I think it's something just to talk to staff with regards to this for the future. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, just one last comment, saying that the county are supplying a couple of sea cans presently. because this would be an initiative, an initiative for fundraising, maybe the county would donate a couple sea cans.
Yeah,
We'll leave that with the mayor and the deputy mayor.
yeah, okay. Dave, you're in charge of sea cans. So, okay.
Tim?
So the one thing, talking to Wendell this week that wasn't on the, on any of the sheets, and received some emails yesterday with regards to it, was the private road grant for Fire Road 82. They made a presentation back, I think it was in October, when the public things, when we took public comments. So the request that they had in there was for $15,000. It was a good report. They did a great job. Last year, I brought something like this forward. It was copying Marmor and Lakes grant that they have going over there, and it was tied to the OMPF funding. And it is an opportunity to have, in a small way, help some of these roads out. So I don't know what council's thoughts are, but it's a small thing to try and work with the groups. They're doing it in other municipalities, and that's the simplest way to do it without affecting the tax, the rate with regards to taking it from OMPF. The one in Marmor is tied to the OMPF, so if the OMPF funding goes away, so does the grant. You know, but it's kind of one of those things to try something. It's an easy alternative to try and see if we could make something work. I don't know what council's thoughts are there.
Jim?
Yeah,
Yeah, just, I don't really have a problem with the idea. I kind of like the idea, just in terms of, from council point of view. I think we need to develop a policy in terms of, you know, if we put this money aside, who gets it? How often can you apply for it? Like, you know,
Yeah.
because obviously we're gonna have people coming up for this first round, but I mean, are they eligible to apply next year, or do they have to take 5 years, 10 years before they can apply again? Because I imagine once we open this gate, there'll be more people, you know, looking to get in. So I think I like the idea, but I think before we move there, we should really nail down the policy in terms of, you know, how we're going to be handing it out.
and you're totally right there, Art. That's the thing, is the policy has to go with it. The thing today, if it was in the budget, it's to create the policy. There's a lot of different ideas out there. I was telling Bob that I've seen, like, you know, working on odd and even years. So in this case, just say it was them and it was Fire Road 82, it would be an even year they could apply. But yeah, there has to be a policy in place, because like you say, it will open the floodgates, and it's not a lot of money to make it go around. But there's a lot of ideas out there. Larry and then Barry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, because I live on a fire road myself, I've been advised that I need to declare a conflict of interest on this topic. I don't know whether I need to do that today or if it comes back to council for a decision, but at some point, and I'll look to our CAO, Bob, for recommendation, but I've been advised that I need to declare.
Sure. Okay, Bob, what's your thoughts? It depends if the resolution is happening today, but as part of the budget, could it be pulled out separately so Councillor Ellis would be able to excuse himself?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. It would, it all depends on council's wishes today. If you wish to make a decision on this matter today, Councillor Ellis can be removed from the meeting temporarily.
Okay, so what's Hart, what's your thoughts there? Like, as far as leaving it in the budget, would you want to do it today, or do you want to have more discussion? Our next meeting, I would imagine we're going to be trying to put together the draft, the budget that's ready to go to vote on. So it probably should be done sooner than later here to get it at least into the budget.
Yep.
I'll leave it with Barry. What's Barry? Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, with this thing here, you're opening a can of worms, Jim. We got 100 fire roads and different branches off of those. So, you know, we have no idea on what it's going to cost. I know it's great for a cottage association to come along and say, we want 1% of your road budget. But I think we have some things to iron out here. You know, if you're gonna go ahead with it, they don't tell you what they want. We're gonna have to tell them what they can get. You know, if you're gonna donate $1,000 a year or whatever, and how many a year are you gonna do? Because if you're only gonna do one a year, you're gonna be 100 years doing them all. So I think there's gonna have to be some more discussion on this. It's something that's very, very important, you know, for everyone, the rest of the township included. And I would like more answers.
Well, so rather than vote on it today, Larry, we'll get some more information with regards to it. And if we're going to vote on this, it's a good idea that you excuse yourself, because we can get the policy this week. There's lots of these around that are doing this, and there's no reason why we can't. And the policies are there, so we just got to draw some policies to put with it. Like Barry says, you know, like 15,000 isn't going to go a long way, so you're probably going to want to, you know, it's a help. It's not going to solve a lot of problems, but at least it's a gesture to try and help some of these people that contribute a lot to our taxes. So go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, well, I still can make one small comment here because we're not making a decision, but in the past, there were discussions about if a cottage association or a cottage road manager came forward and they were doing some work on that certain fire road, that they could purchase items through the township at a cost savings to them. So that might be something that could be a consideration.
Yeah, that's another part of it. They would go through our, when we do an RFP or whatever, they can draw on maybe gravel and things like that. This is something a little different. It's, like I say, there's a number of them around us that have it. So maybe for the next meeting, we can draw some policies that they have. And I think, like Barry said, as far as the $1,000, I think that's what these policies would have. It's a matter of getting it in there, and then the policies are going to be, you know, whatever they are as far as, you know, how much you can take. Because like you say, you could eat $15,000 up in one go, and with 100 roads, it wouldn't go that far. But the policy will be the biggest part of this. The main thing is to try and get something in there to help some of these people. But so we can leave it for today, and try and get that information so we can make a better decision next time, as far as maybe there needs to be a couple of sample policies from, I didn't look at the policies from Marmor and Lake, but I know there's some up in Coe Hill area. They're all around us, and FOCA has some other things too. So let's get some more information before we make a decision on it. But I think it's a simple thing to do, and we can deal with it then with the more information. So so is that okay with it? We just defer this then? Could I get a motion for that we defer it, or do you want to take it right off of the list here? So Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll take it off the list, and we'll have to try to make up a policy, see what other townships are doing, see how it's working. I can understand the cottage road people, but they also have to understand council too. There's only, you know, 100 roads. It sure divvies it up pretty quick, doesn't it? And you can't say, well, you're getting 15,000 and you're getting 2,000. You know, you're going to have a policy set up. There's a bit of work to this too. So, and we just can't be electioneering on this.
So Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, I can comment because we're not making decisions here, but I think it's smart to just defer it. That way you don't lose track of it, regardless of what way it goes. Gives staff time to come back with some concrete information and some of the other policies, but if we just defer it, then we don't lose it.
So I have two
That's
things.
emotional.
So sorry, Dave, I can't see you, but I think that was you I heard.
If Counselor Ellis has made that a motion to defer, I will second it.
Okay, I just have to make sure, Barry, was yours a motion to remove it, or was it just, were you just talking?
No, it's all right.
Okay, so Larry, are you saying to defer it then? And,
Motion to defer, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
okay, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Drow.
Question,
Go ahead, Hart.
is the deferral, so we're just deferring this, but the money's still staying in the budget? And
For
we'll
now,
decide
until
on-
I think if we could get a policy to look at a policy to go with it, right now it's still kind
Yeah,
of not
keep-
opportune.
Keep the money there until we get a policy, but the money stays there.
Okay,
100%.
Clarification.
Okay.
There is no money in the budget at this time.
That's
For that.
okay. Okay, so right now, Hart, that can come back to the next meeting, but right now that
Yep.
the motion is to defer it. We'll get a policy and then we can vote on whether to draw it, like whether it's from OMPF or where it's from. We can deal with the details later.
No problem.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just agreeing with the motion.
Okay, okay. So all in favor of the motion?
In favor.
Okay, and that's carried. Okay, so that's the end of the summary sheet that we had. And we did the peak roof visual thing there. So the next was the budget highlights and a lot of this stuff was dealt with in this summary sheet. Am I right
Pretty
there?
much.
Jim,
We've done most of those things. Yep.
Okay, did I hear Hart there?
yeah, motion to take a 5-minute break.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Could I get a motion that we take a 5-minute break here and we'll resume?
Second the motion. Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? We'll resume at 11:25.
Thank you, David.
On here is the budget notes, and we've done that, I think. Gwendolyn, was there anything in the highlights there that you needed addressed?
No, I think we've pretty much dealt with all of them.
Okay. So you're happy?
Yep.
Okay.
So far.
Okay. So next, the budget summary. I'll just try and find that there. So what's it look like, Gwendolyn? Okay, there it
So
is.
we're
there.
looking at 2.01, so that will change because we took out the $10,000 for the entrance signs
Okay,
for economic development.
so
I think
is
that's the only impact that will change there.
so is 1% 66,000? Is that what
Yes, roughly,
okay,
probably closer to 67.
okay. All right then, so yeah, it's a big difference for in this one. I think 1% of the county is 465,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So when you
Can't
make
even
it, okay,
compare.
10,000 doesn't even show, it doesn't even move the thing. So, but anyways, on this one here, if we could do a few more things like that, it would, but as long as we're moving ahead, that'll be the big thing. So
Yeah.
is there any questions, council, with regards to the budget summary there and where it's at? Barry? You're muted.
Space bar. There you
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't even know where I was. Oh, Mr. Mayor, is there any inkling from the county that you and Dave have heard how much of an increase we're going to get there?
right now we're at, I think it's 2.3%. It was only the first, we've only had the draft introduced to us last week. So we'll probably be probably 2 or 3 more meetings at least to try and get anywhere on that. So no, I don't think we'll have anything for a while.
So you don't have any projected thoughts or?
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I think we got a draft budget, and they've been working on the budget. The finance committee, made up of staff and council. They couldn't make any firm decisions. All those decisions are made by council, but they come in with right off the bat with a pretty lean budget. We went through it last week. It was very well presented, item per item. There's naturally going to have to be some movement somewhere, but how much, I don't think is going to be very much unless we can find a big item. So it's at this point in time, I wouldn't even guess what our levy would be to the county.
Yeah.
Okay, just inquiring.
So like Dave said, this year there's a finance committee that I think there's 3 counselors on there and some managers, and they brought it to us, and it was already had a lot of things on the go and dealt with. So it came in pretty good, but there is some questions with regards to, I know I had one with regards to a dump truck that they're purchasing and wondering if we really needed it. We have a bunch of subcommittees that are working on those things too. Dave and I sit on a couple different committees with regards to that. So that'll all be coming together as part of this budget to try and, do a better job. A lot of things with regards to sharing between the townships and the county, that we're looking at that too, as far as the organization service delivery review that's happening right now. So that's what's kind of, it's in around the 2%, but it'll be a few meetings here before we get to the final number.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So is there any other questions with regards to this summary sheet for today? It is like, we've been working on this for a few months now, and I know we had a gap in the middle there, and that's why we did the overview there on the 14th, just to see where we were at. It's staff's been working in their management meetings trying to knock things off and trying to make it a reasonable budget, and we seem to be heading in the right direction. It hasn't came back going the other way yet, so that's good, and hopefully we can continue going that route. So any other questions from council? The only one, go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, I had a couple on Parks and Rec. Zero turn replace, 17 grand. I would like to know, does it need to be replaced? I know the last one we got rid of was in pretty good shape. And it went to, I think the Jamboree bought it. And it's still running, so I'm wondering, there was only one used last year. One should still be pretty brand new.
So Ryan, is that?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to answer Councilor Pomeroy's question with the zero turn. This was actually scheduled in the replacement schedule last year to be replaced. And it was decided to push it out another year. So if council wants to push it out another year again, I guess they could, but it's also good to, keep these up to date, and, we could keep putting money into it, but really, I mean, we have a replacement schedule for a reason. It's good planning to keep our equipment up to date, but it's up to council if they wish to push that out another year.
Well, I'm just wondering because how much has it cost in repairs in the last year? And like some of this stuff, we're gonna have to sit down and look at more than just Parks and Rec. There's vehicles here that we're replacing every 5 years that don't need to be replaced, and so on and so forth. And then the other thing that was in there was a caboose replacement for the liner. Should that be coming out of Parks? Is that not the Lions Club?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that was actually approved last year, so that's just a carry forward this year to get that liner replaced. So that was previously approved. That's just the balance carried over.
I think we were the ones that put it. I think we put it in, but I'm not sure. I don't think, like a lot of stuff on that park there, as much as it's Lions Park, it's I think a lot of it was for the benefit of the township, but
Okay.
so is there any other questions with regards to the budget summary? What do you need out of that then, Wendell? It's just to show us where
So
we're at.
what's
Mr. Mayor?
council's decision on the zero turn, I guess, is my question.
Okay. I think I heard Larry there.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to reflect Councillor Pomeroy's comments and Ryan's. Our equipment replacement schedule is a schedule, and we have massaged that and changed in the past. I think it was more to do with the larger vehicles. We already heard this morning from our roads manager, Pete, who's saying that he doesn't think a certain piece of equipment needed to be replaced and extended that. So that would be no different to me than it would be a zero turn lawnmower. Maybe we should be having a look at the equipment replacement on that certain piece of equipment. I understand it's a schedule and there's a reason for it, but as again, I've said, we have massaged and adjusted them before. And there's no reason why we can't do it again.
Yeah, and that goes with all the equipment. I think every year they should be looked at. Personally, I know what I put into mine. Mine's about 7 years old now, and it probably is a good time to replace, but that's just my opinion. As far as if you don't mind putting, $4,000 a year or so into repairs. I know it's cheaper than a new one, but that's just an example of replacing a couple of pumps and a couple of things that just don't last. 7 years is not that bad of a number, but it's something with all the equipment we should keep up on it, or I'm sure staff is doing that. They're looking at, like they say, they pushed it out another year, which I don't think hurt anything. How old is this one, Ryan?
This is a 7-year-old machine now. The
Now?
hours, this is yeah, and this is the hours are getting up there because this is our primary piece of equipment. This is our number one. Like I said, last year, it was in pretty decent shape. We've continued to do good preventative maintenance on it. So we were looking last year like we could probably push it out a year, but if council decides to go another year, we could continue that. Just we probably put some money into it in terms of maintenance.
Okay.
Do you have another zero turn there, Brian?
Sorry, I missed part of that question. Can you repeat that, Barry?
Do you have another zero turn in your fleet there?
Yeah, we have we replaced one a couple of years ago. We replaced the rider with a small zero turn. It's not a commercial zero turn. It's a residential model. And the thought behind that was that it was a lot lighter for towing, for doing the boat launches and things like that. So yeah, we do have one, but like I said, it's a residential grade mower. Certainly not anything comparable to the Gravely zero turn that we're looking at replacing right now.
So could you maybe tell us, or do you think that we could get through without, a big repair on the zero turn? I'm just looking for some efficiencies here, if at all possible. And I think every department, is going to have to start doing that. We're going to have to look at all of our equipment. If there's something that's costing us a lot of money, get rid of it. But if it will work another season without a substantial amount of repairs, I guess that's your call.
It's hard to say, Barry. you know, we could continue doing maintenance on it and get through another year if you like. It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
Like I said, I guess it was kind of important to us that it's our number one piece of equipment.
Yep.
So without that, you know, I don't know.
Well, yeah, if you started having trouble, there's one down the road, I imagine. Bill's not that far away.
That's some of the problem is you can't get them once they're if you miss the order time. So it's up to you, Ryan. I think we're asking you if you think you can get another year, and I know you can't predict what's going to go wrong with it. You know what you've been going through with it. We do have the replacement plan in place, so it's not going to make an effect to the budget. It's there. We've already contributed to it. So it's one of those things that if you want to put it off for another year and just up your other side of your budget for repairs, maybe you can do it that way.
Okay, well, we can put it out to next year, and I'll just let council know if we come across any major expenses this year. We can go from there, I guess.
Okay, Dave, go ahead.
My question is, it isn't going to make any difference to the budget whether we change it or not. It's not
No.
going to make 1 penny difference to our budget. So
No, we paid for it.
it's already paid for. So my question would be to Ryan, will we sell the other zero turn?
Through you, Mr.
Nope.
Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Giroux's comment. Typically, when we do a replacement, it would be sold at on the WDO's website. Yeah, we wouldn't keep it or anything. We already have another backup, smaller zero turn. There wouldn't be any requirement to have that remain in the fleet and continue to do maintenance on it. That was kind of the point of replacing it, was to get something else that was newer.
Well, my theory is I don't want to spend any more money on it. If we have the money in the budget, it's not going to create any difference in this budget. If we keep it for a year and have to spend $7,000 on it, that's money that's got to be come out of the budget. So
Yeah.
maybe I'm not looking at this right, but
I think you're right, Dave, but I think, everybody's making good points here as far as for future, Ryan, and I don't know, maybe you already have it. It would be good to know what we're spending, on repairs. Like you must have a repair side of your budget, or I don't know how you work that, but if you're getting into like we do the best we can at picking a lifespan of a piece of equipment, whether it's a grader or a lawnmower. And I know when we first did it, it was 4 years. I think that one that Barry's referring to with Jamboree, I know I bought one, my first one was the same year as that. And I thought it was a little early to sell it. 7 years is probably a pretty good number with regards to trying to fix these things. So no matter what, you could get a lemon and you'd want to sell it after a year. But this thing here, we have budgeted for it, over the 7 years. So it's not going to save us anything, and the taxpayer has already paid for a new one. But it would be good to probably have a line that you can show us maybe your repairs as far as your, the overall, your equipment repairs over the year would be an interesting thing to see probably.
So can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
no.
So no, it would not affect the tax increase of the budget if it's removed. What it does is it saves the money within the reserve and it pushes it out 1 year if it is not going to be having large repairs, etc. So you are saving money within the reserve that you're replenishing each year. So it's helping build that reserve for other equipment. Also, just to let council know, all the equipment schedules will be reviewed after budget is done, because we have some amendments that we need to do for the development charge study. So all the managers need to review those sheets and make sure that they're correct.
So all them, like some, I think Barry referred to pickup trucks that were 5 years or whatever, they'll all be looked at after the budget?
Yeah, so for a development charge study, to qualify, your pickup would have to be a 7-year amortization, not a 5-year. So we need to change those at least to make sure that they're captured in the development charge study.
So that's something like with all the equipment, like we've said before with the dump trucks, I think we have them out to 12 years. Or that's what I've seen on that sheet that we had from last year. But we were looking at the resale of those things, and that's what happens. The longer you hang on to these things, you lose it on the other end too. So, you know, so it's up to council. We can either, like I say, it's one of those things that's already been in the budget. We have a lifespan on it of 7 years, I think is what I read on that replacement schedule. So we can either try and get another year out of it or whatever. Did you make a motion, Dave? No. Okay, so
No,
up
I
to
didn't make a
council here.
motion.
Okay, so
Barry
Barry,
did. I think.
go ahead, Barry.
No, I'm not making a motion. I just was asking Ryan if we could get another year out of it possibly. Because I don't like the way you and Dave figure that it's already paid for and so on and so forth. I think Wendland kind of explained that. If you keep it for another year and that money goes back in the reserves, it's like having money in both of your pockets. If you take some out of here, you know, you got to replenish it, eh? Anyway, that's, to me, that's Ryan's call.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, I was just asking a question, could we get another year out of it and maybe save?
Okay, so and Ryan has said he can try to. So that's where it's at, because he can't predict whether it's going to break down tomorrow or not.
I understand that.
So,
And maybe we could have he must have a log on that piece of equipment. What's it cost so far for repairs? And what's the, you know, does he predict that there's maybe a pump gonna go on it or whatever, like, you know, you pretty much know when you're running a piece of equipment.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, we'll push it out to next year then. And yeah, we do have a detailed log of what we've spent on it so far, but in terms of predicting, like, we have a maintenance program and we have some money in the budget to do that. So we'll just continue to do that then.
Whatever, Ryan, like I was just thinking maybe we could get another year out of it. If you don't feel we can, well, that's your decision.
so, okay, so I'll take a motion here that either we authorize the new zero turn or somebody can make a motion and we can move on with this. We've heard from staff and it's up to council now on this piece of equipment. I'm not seeing anything here, so somebody's got to make a decision here. I can't make the motion. So do we get a new one or do we try and get another year? Go ahead, Dave.
I'll just go with what Ryan said. We're going to still tax for it, but we're not going to spend it. So.
Okay. All right. So we have a mover that we try and get another year, go for another year with the zero turn. Is there a seconder there?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor?
Yep.
Okay, carried. So, Hart, I can't see you on this thing, so, but there was 3 there.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, no, I'm yep on that one.
okay. All right then. It's so is there anything else in there, Wendland, with regards to the budget summary?
No, not unless council has a specific concern and want us to discuss it.
No, go ahead, Larry.
That's for you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm trying to scan through some of the costs here. When we advertise for our new position for cleaning attendant, do we still supply all the materials for that position?
Yes, we will be supplying the materials.
Okay, so that's one of the little things that as I pick through, trying to get our increase back to an inflationary cost. For an example, I just happen to have the police breakdown here, and there's $500 in for cleaning material for the police station.
So that's supplies for cleaning, chemicals, toilet paper, those types of things.
Well, just, and then that's reflected on any of the facilities.
Yes.
That's a small amount compared to some of them. And it just seemed kind of extreme because it all adds up at the end of the day. When you go to all the facilities and it's 500 here, 1,200 or whatever, you'll see it as you look back through, it seemed kind of extreme, that's all. I don't know how do you arrive at those numbers?
We were just trying to not minimize it so that it'd be too low and to put a number there, because right now with the contract that we have, they include the supplies. So we don't know an exact figure of what in the invoicing that they give us, what the supplies is, but we could definitely get better pricing through a government contract from some of the cleaning companies.
Well, it just seemed like we're going to advertise this position as a cost saving initiative. But when you start adding up all these costs, I just thought they were extreme, that's all. It's a comment.
Okay, so I think they're all figured into that cleaning position then, Gwendolyn, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
you came up with?
The overall proposal is still going to save money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I have another one on facilities. I see there's 15,000 for railings. I know the fellas fixed those railings back in the fall or early winter. So is that going to be needed? That's 15 grand. And then the air purification system, I see it's 15,000, which I guess we need for COVID. So that would counteract if we didn't need a new railing. Has anybody checked out the railing to see what kind of a job has been done, or do we need a new railing since it's been patched and welded and painted?
I'll let Ryan comment on that.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councilor Palmer's question. We don't have to do the railing. It was we did fix a few bad spots there this fall and repainted it. If council doesn't want to do it, then we're okay with that.
Well, one would cover the other one, Gwendolyn.
So the railing's safe and nobody's gonna fall off then, Ryan? Like, we have a schedule again for a reason, but we're gonna keep pulling the thing off.
But why would we spend the guy's time there for fixing it, welding and cutting and the whole ball of wax? Go out and have a look at it, you know? If it's gonna do us for another 5 years, maybe we won't be there in 5 years, or maybe whoever. You won't be in that building, but the whole thing of it is, if it'll meet council's approval.
Yeah.
When you go and look at it, because it's just something we take for granted. Everybody walks in there, they don't look at the railing.
Okay, so you're okay, Ryan, if that was pulled off of there?
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's been on the books for a few years. This isn't the first time you've seen it on there. So you know, we didn't want it to get lost and not get done, but no, we're okay if if it's not of their choice to do that.
If safety's okay? I don't care about the cost, I care about the safety. So you're okay with the safety side of things?
I'm okay with it. I don't know if John has any further comments on that from his side. I know we've had discussion on this in management team meeting. I don't know if John has anything to add to that.
Is he there?
Could be. There he is.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that at this time.
It's fine then, you're okay with it as far as the inspector?
I haven't looked at it lately since the repairs were done. We can have a look at it and Ryan and I can look at it and see whether we think it's safe enough to continue. We don't have the public come into the building right now. It's just some of the staff, but we can have a look at it. And
Okay. Larry, go ahead.
So if that's removed, Wendland, does that affect taxation?
Yes, because that was coming from taxation, so it'd be $15,000 less from taxation.
So we're almost halfway there to a percentage point, right?
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay,
Thanks, Ryan.
all right.
Thanks.
Anything else there? Anybody wishes to talk about? I can hardly read the writing on this. It printed so small. Gonna have to get my glasses out. Yeah, and the other thing was the CCANs, and we already deferred that as far as for discussion, but with regards to sheds. Larry, go ahead.
Just a question to Ryan. Are they replacing something at the Stone Hall? A filtration system or a water system or something? I had a question from a resident and I couldn't answer it.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, what was the question again, Larry?
Are you replacing any kind of a filtration system? Might be with water or air? Is there something new going in or has gone in or planned to be gone in at the Stone Hall?
No, nothing planned for this year in terms of like there's a UV light there for water.
It's nothing.
But it's not scheduled for replacement or anything. We did replace the air conditioning unit there last year, but I'm not really sure what you're referring to.
I'm not sure either. It was a comment from a resident and I said I would ask. So thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Barry, you had something?
I'm fine, thanks, Jim.
Okay. Anyone else with regards to these listed items? Bob, you okay with everything there?
Yep, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, I'm okay. Thank you.
All right. So, Wendell, the next part we have on here is the tax area rates.
So normally, where you see right at the bottom where it says budget summary, the reserve contribution used to say sidewalks, but I felt that it should be just reserve contribution. So I did bump that up slightly this year with inflation. Normally that number was larger, but in the past 2020 and this year, $25,000 of the area rate is going to the drawings and the planning for Alexander Union area. So going forward, you'd see that merge back together. So just to give you a synopsis of what's happening there.
Okay. So the sidewalk part of it's pulled out of there. We're not going to lose it in the future?
No, it's just going to go as straight reserve contribution, and whatever council deems in that reserve to what you need should be. So instead of just pigeonholing it for one item, then you could use it for if something else came up within the village.
Okay, so that's just the village part portion though, eh?
Yes.
Okay. Because that was always a thing, like it was easy to show that the sidewalks weren't paid for by the township when people asked.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, council? I'm not hearing anything, so is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll just receive that for today then?
Okay.
And the capital projects, we already talked about there.
Pretty much, yeah.
So is there anything in that one you need?
No, it's all included within the budget documents as a whole. I just wanted to give council a snapshot picture of where the money was coming from, whether it's coming from one PF reserves or a grant or taxation.
Okay. So that was something I asked you before, and it would be nice to help us for the next meeting, but so we keep talking about our investments and some of the numbers that we were looking at there. You said something about 14 million, and I don't know what I wrote it on. You said like you had a list of things there, but the committed investments or committed reserves was $14 million, 14.2.
So right now we have approximately 12 million in reserves, which should be set aside within the funds. And the reserve funds are set aside, but are not necessarily needing to be funded in an investment or a bank account. So there's 2.1 million there. So we have, just gonna flip to my sheet that I emailed. So we have 14 million between the reserves and the reserve funds. We just have over 10 million in the investments right now in the one funds. And then the balance would be out of the general account that we have.
Okay. All right then. So like, so any, like you said that we're, you know, the investments are doing good. So are doing okay. We haven't lost anything. So any of the positive side, where does that go to as far as to help us with some of these projects?
So any monies that are accumulated from investment revenue are redistributed to the individual reserve funds and reserves. So they're captured in those items to
Okay, so
future fund and offset capital expenditures instead of coming from taxation. So that's why we have an investment.
so most of those reserves, when we do them, are an example, say, is the arena boards. We, you know, we figure on a 25 or whatever years of they're stretched out to. So we put money in the reserve every year over that length of time so we can pay for it when it comes. And usually it's projected for the inflation is always figured into that too. So
yes, that's part of the asset management plan as well, and that's all factored in. And for example, the wastewater treatment plant, we have a 40-year plan there that we are paying into, anticipating when that is going to be needing to be redone.
it's a good example because it's a big one. But what I'm seeing here, though, is if we keep putting all the interest that we're making on our investments into there, plus what we calculated for the replacement, it's going to just keep going up and up. It would be better to put any surplus into a separate reserve so we can use it. We're kind of making money off our money is the way I look at it. That you know, all these projects, we're just keep boosting up the reserves, but we don't use the money that we're making off of that money. So
Yeah.
Maybe
So
I'm
one
simplifying
of
it.
the things on my to-do list for 2021 is to come up with a reserve policy, because we don't have one right now. So to have a parameter of what each reserve would pay for, potential borrowing between reserves, all those different things that council would need to think of. So those are items that when we talk about a reserve policy, that maybe those items can come forward. But it was just when the investments were put in 5 years ago that we thought, putting it back into the reserve, then you're saving on the other end from taxation of a contribution to a reserve because it was low.
But we're not deducting, what I'm trying to say, like that zero turn, for example, if we budgeted $14,000 or whatever it was to replace it.
Yeah.
And then we're keep putting money in on top of that money. All these reserves are just going through the roof, but they're, I understand that we got to keep a static number to replace all this stuff, but there's the surplus there should be able to be used for the future, like the $5 million or $4.5 million in OMPF money that we got sitting there. There's profits off of that from the investments or from sitting in the bank that should be coming back for us to spend, not for just to sit there and keep building on the other side, is what I see. And maybe that's why we've been so cheap at doing things around here, because we're we're good at saving, but we're not good at spending. So,
but really, in the OMPF side of things, council has been spending from the OMPF for projects, grant opportunities, and that's what council has kind of in the past said, keep that aside, that if a grant opportunity came in, then we could fund that and we didn't have to go out and debenture. So there's that. But to talk, for example, like you mentioned about the zero turn, we all have to look at the equipment reserve, because now the Parks and Rec have to start budgeting ahead for asset management for vehicles, because historically in the past, they did not budget for future needs for vehicles, for example. Flip side also, fire department, there's going to be 2 pickups there now, so that extra pickup has to be added into the projections, as well as fire equipment that has, the prices have gone through the roof with the US dollar. So by putting in the extra money from the investment revenue has really offset some of those things that are coming down the pipe, so to speak.
sure. Okay, well, that's just like, go ahead, Art.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo what you said, Jim. I think council's been talking about this for a long time in terms of a reserve policy. A lot of these reserves are way out of whack for what I've heard. The kind of money you should have in a reserve, like we have $5 million in an admin reserve. So, and last year we put in almost another 1.4. So,
So that's the OMPF. Basically, is the majority of the 1.3 million is the.
Oh, I understand that, but the fact is the reserve just keeps getting bigger and bigger year after year, right? And as Jim said, we need to put a cap on that, and whatever money we're making on top of it, roll that back into the working funds. Because
so that's another decision making in the policy that.
Well, I'm just saying, if you looked at our budget over the last 4 or 5 years and looked at these numbers, they just continue to go up and up and up. And we've talked about this in terms of taking money from these reserves, putting it back into the working funds. Yet every year, here we come, 1.4, another 100,000 in fire, like sharpen your pencils.
Yeah, like and I think I'm going to use the zero turn because I'm kind of familiar with it, but like even if you go and sell that for $4,000 or $5,000, you put that back into the reserve, when that could go into the working funds, because we budgeted for the whole zero turn, and then same as the dump truck, you sell the dump truck for 50 grand afterwards, and it goes back into the working reserve. when it should go into, we budgeted for the whole dump truck. So those, what we sell these things for should be going to a working reserve that we can get some things done that are on the plate here, instead of, some of that stuff, we go and rent a loader for $5,000 a month when we could buy a loader, if we really seen the numbers that we have in these reserves. We pay whatever it is, $30,000 or $20,000 a year to rent a loader that we'll never own. These are things that's good. We need to get onto that this year as far as the, a policy around the reserves, because there's too much going in, and it's good to be healthy. I'm not saying to spend the reserves. When you look at what we've spent and what we're contributing, some of them are complicated, and it's not as simple as just looking at it and saying, we should do this, but we need to have some policies around it, because a lot of this extra money, we've talked about it at the county too. It goes back into a reserve when it should be put back towards the taxes, the tax rate. So anyways, enough discussion on that. Unless is there anybody else wishes to talk about these things?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
so we're scheduled to sit down and talk about policies in the near future when we get through our budget here. So I would think we're overdue to add this as an item for a policy review. So
Yeah.
it's a comment.
Is that comment or a motion?
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
That's what I thought it was. So a motion that we,
That motion.
and seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Yes, carried. So, so Wendland, let's get on with that and see what we can do there, because I think Hart's right. So, okay, so the reserve fund projection then, Wendland, is that?
So that just gives you a synopsis, right? What's in the budget right now for spending and contributions. And then
Okay.
the two different allocations that was already passed by council today.
Right. Okay. So there's, okay, so this year's contribution to reserves is
2.2494 million.
Okay,
That second column,
okay,
plus the 231 down below.
yeah, so 2.5.
yeah.
Okay. And then, and then at the very end of it, for the totals of what we have in there is about $14 million in the reserve. And how much is dedicated, I guess I had wrote down here, and how much do we, so.
Yeah.
That'll come out in the discussion of the motion that we have there to look at these reserves and see what we can do to help us with our, with some of these projects that we have on the go. So, okay, is there anything else with regards to that, Gwendolyn?
Nope, that's all. And just on the OMPF, we're in this budget now, we're spending almost $750,000 of the OMPF money in 2021 budget. So we are
Okay.
spending some of it for different
Okay.
projects.
So what was that for? What was the 700 and,
For the medical center roofing, storm sewers, the crosswalk, and potentially the connecting link, if we get that grant. So that may or may not be spent depending if we're successful. And then the housing project over on Smith Drive for the lift of the pavements, sidewalk and manhole rehabilitation.
okay,
Concession Street for the upgrade there. And then the wastewater, E of A.
Okay, good. Larry and then Hart.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, I want to step back just for a minute. I missed a question.
Yep.
Through our admin budget and talking about financial investment, what company does HBM use to advise on our investments?
So we don't have a company that's advising us. Our investments are through One Funds, which is through LAS and AMO. And they're all within the guidelines set out by the province for what municipalities can and cannot invest in.
Yeah, you're really limited on what you can invest in, Larry, when it comes to taxation.
I think I remember that now that you reminded me. Thank you. And I just, one last little question. I noticed $5,000 for bank charges. What would be the reason for $5,000 bank charges?
Debit machine, writing checks, the amount per checks, etc. The monthly fee for the bank accounts.
I know it's not a large amount, but you would think that the amount of money that HBM is utilizing to go through banking facilities, that it should be no different than you or I banking. They waiver charges.
Yeah. So one of the things, once I get to that project, is to look at writing less and less checks, because checks will cost more money, and getting into a different system where we could do EFTs.
Yeah, because
to different suppliers.
Checks are almost a thing of the past.
Yeah, so that's on the to-do list as well.
All righty, thank you.
And by the way, Larry, don't lump us all in with you. Not all of us live in a gated community. So, you know, when you're talking that way, you're a little loose with it, but go ahead, Hart.
Yeah, just a question about the crosswalk. I thought we'd already budgeted for that a couple of years ago.
So there was a report brought to council a couple of years ago, but it never gave the allocation of where the money was coming from.
Okay.
It wasn't in the 2020 budget, but the work's gonna be done in 2021. So we thought we'd put that in because it's carrying forward to be
Okay,
finished this year.
thank you. I thought we allocated money for that already, but thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions with regard to reserves? And I can't see you, Dave. Do you have anything?
He's muted.
Sorry about that. I was going to ask a question on the crosswalk also. Hart kind of did that. I'd even lost my paper now. Or the costing, Wendland, what was the cost? I can't see it.
We put 10,000 in
Oh yeah,
for the crosswalk, and I know not in 2020, but 2019 we had a very small amount of, I think it was almost $2,000 for preliminary work when they first started it, but the balance should be 10,000 or under, and that's coming through the county. Yeah.
That was through taxation, right?
OMPF.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions? We're doing pretty good on time here, so that was all I have on here, Gwendolyn.
So one thing I'll bring up was the one question from Council Pomeroy on the water and sewer. So the numbers will not affect the overall percentage increase because that's funded through the users. So it's still in the budget to date for the increases in those areas. So because of the COVID, Councillor Pomeroy had suggested maybe we don't have an increase in 2021 for sewer and water. So those numbers, so for the water, that would be $2,191 impact. And with the sewer, it'd be $11,829 impact, for a total impact of $14,020. That would basically just reduce what you're putting in those two reserves. So that's a decision that we would need from council to bring back a final draft budget.
So those numbers, Gwendolyn, is that including the new houses? I think that was what Councillor Pomeroy's question was at the time, was with all the
Yeah,
new.
the new houses haven't been included in the budget yet because they're not online yet, and we don't have a firm date yet when they're going to be online.
Yeah, but it'll probably be this month.
Yeah.
So, okay, Barry and then Dave.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Do we not have any COVID funding that will absorb the increase in water and sewer? I think last year we had some funding from.
So we had COVID funding last year, which we did not use all of. So that will be going into a separate reserve as per the province's regulations. They have not given us further parameters around what we can use it for, what we can't use it for. And we've also just received another $53,000 from the province for 2021 COVID without any parameters on it yet. So I'm still trying to get information for that. I would think that we should be able to use that money towards that, but I can't say 100% because I don't have the information from the province.
Well, further to that, I think council's got to have a little bit of compassion here for the people that are on that system. The increases, COVID is, it's crazy. I don't know how our old pensioners even are going to get by. Now we got a bunch of young people that, two people were working per family. Some of them are down to one, don't know where their next dollar is coming from. They can't stretch it. In some families, there's two not working. It's fine for us to sit and, we're fortunate enough to have the money to pay these, and some of them have, some have good jobs, good paying jobs. And at a time like this, all you have to do is watch the news, and there's so many things for people out there for and we have to be a little bit compassionate. That's what I'm saying is hopefully this will be over this year. They're hollering for that, but if not, we got people that are, some are requiring mental help. It's not a great thing, and we're being forced into something that we don't like, and the few dollars that you're going to raise, I think is minute compared to what we're going to put people through.
Okay, Hart, you had something, and then Larry.
Yeah, I see where Barry's coming from. The one thing I think I don't know if I introduced it at the last meeting, but I'm hearing from people in terms of COVID relief, or we have businesses in this community that have, obviously quite a few of them, the service they can give people has been limited, but we do have a few that have been shut right down and aren't allowed to open at all. And these people are continually sent water bills, electricity bills, things like this. And moving forward, I like to see council have a discussion in terms of that, because, is it really fair we be collecting a water bill from somebody when legally they're not allowed to open their business? So, and I understand what will be put out is that, it's not us that closed it, fair argument, but at the same time, to Councillor Pomeroy's point, I think we could extend a bit of compassion here in terms of trying to help people out when times are tough. So moving forward, I'd like to see, in terms of all the water rates, as Councillor Pomeroy said, but for myself, I'd like to see some of the businesses that have been affected by this, and if we can, find a way to kind of help them through this a little bit. So
That's good, Art, because that's what I've been saying is long-term gain or short-term gain for whatever. You're going to lose these businesses if we don't help them. So, yeah, well said. So, Larry, go ahead.
Well, just a comment on it. Like, I understand the compassion, but we also have to understand there's businesses that are not just in the village that have the same issues. Just a comment.
Yeah, so this would be go back to the water rates and everything. Go ahead, Barry.
Well, I think I mentioned it the last time too. They're like businesses are that are on the system, and they should, be treated the same as a family household owner. If you're not going to do an increase for the regular, you don't do an increase on the commercial neither. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, is there not a grant that I mentioned the last time? Not a grant for small businesses to apply for?
So the what's coming up is the potential of a new tax class for small business that would have a discounting factor in that tax rate. So that's what we're going to be discussing as county treasurers this afternoon, whether or not the county would put that into their tax class, which would flow down to the lower tier.
So I think that's good discussion. And like, I don't think there again, this thing here, maybe we can look into some of the COVID money, see if there is anywhere that we can access something to help this, help the cause. One of the things I suggested was the money that we were using for facades and things that didn't get used. There should have been a surplus there. So we were allowing $2,500 for businesses. If there was a way of spreading that across the board to help the Economic Development Committee could help some of these businesses. And then as far as the water rates and increases, maybe before we make a final decision today, we should see what's out there and see what we can do to help. Because Barry's right. It's with all of these things that we're dealing with right now, it's almost like kicking someone while they're down. And there's got to be a way of I know it's compassion, whatever, and I am one that always has said, with the water rates, we got to do what we got to do because there's a cost to give that water, like to supply that water. But this year is so different in every way that we maybe should dig deep here and see what there is there to help the community get over this hump, because hopefully it's going to be better next year. So maybe for the next meeting we could have some more input on that, and I'll talk to Dave Smith and see if there's anything there as far as provincial. There has been discussion with regards, like you say, that money was good for last year. We do have a surplus. If we could use some of that for this year, because we're into it again. So hopefully that's what they'll do, is open it up that we can help on this in 2021 too. So is there any other comments with regards to that? Go ahead, Larry.
And just through you, Mr. Mayor, the COVID funding, and maybe I should have known this or forgotten, but what all can COVID funding be used for? Gwendolyn?
So the current COVID funding was just for 2020, so it was to offset any revenue losses in different departments. And it was to offset expenses that you incurred that you normally wouldn't incur in a normal year because of COVID.
No capital, just operating.
Okay, well, it just seemed kind of like we didn't use all the COVID funding that was available to us.
So they came up with that formula, and the formula was all over the place. Like, we all got similar amounts in the county, like as far as the 8 or 9 municipalities, like where the cities got a lot more because they lost a lot more when it comes to transportation. So they got huge numbers, but so they just And that's what happened. They put this number out across the board and everybody was different. Some made money, not made money, but like there is some things even with us, like when the plant wasn't running at the arena, probably our hydro rates were less that month. So, you know, things, it's a lot of calculating and they did, I think, the best they could. Now it's a matter of seeing if we could use it for this year because we're losing just as bad this year too. So not just us, everyone. So let's look into it for the next meeting. Gwendolyn, see what we can dig up there and, you know, see if there is a way of helping with the water rates for this year. Maybe calculate the numbers in because those other ones are going to come online here in the next month. That's going to help that number that you're talking about. And, you know, maybe we can go from there as far as the businesses. The water is one part of it, but there is another part of it, like Hart said. And if there's a way that we can help some of the businesses in a small way, it's kind of like everything else. It all helps in the end. And if we lose them, it's going to be hard for them to come back. So we can do whatever we can to, you know, that's reasonable. You know, we can't bail out. We're only a small municipality. It's not like a city where you can start putting hundreds of thousands of dollars in, but there's stuff we can do to try and help in a small way to get them through this. So, so is there anything else with regards to today's discussion? And I think, you know, does staff have any questions for council or comments? I can see a bunch of names there, can't see everyone there, but is there any questions for council before we leave? Not seeing any. So, okay, so I'll leave it at that then, and I'll look for a confirming bylaw for today's proceedings.
How's that for timing?
Perfect. 2 minutes too long. So, anyways, what's the, somebody want to make a motion for the confirming bylaw? Nobody wants to leave? Okay, go ahead, Larry. Seconder, Hart, all in favor? And that's carried. And a motion to adjourn, Councillor Pomeroy and Deputy Mayor Giroux. Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.